Very interesting.
Oh. We lost a subscriber. I don't have anything open, so we can't.
Start talking. Figure it out. We have 3 users.
So I'm gonna check it then.
Just do the intro.
Oh, we're just gonna roll with it and then I'll feed you the questions.
Yeah, I got
Hi and welcome guys. My name is Brenda Ramirez. I am the recruitment specialist for the College of Liberal Arts here at Purdue University. I just want to welcome you all to our live broadcast today on YouTube. This is actually our first broadcast, so bear with us as we face some challenges and obstacles. But we have a great panel of students lined up for you today. They're going to talk a little bit more about their experiences as a liberal arts student here at Purdue University, some of the great opportunities that they've been able to take advantage as a Purdue student, and then they'll also be taking your questions. So please make sure that you're firing those away through our comment box, or feel free to tweet at us at Purdue Lib Arts. That's at Purdue Lib Arts. So I'm going to hand it off to our host for the night, Kobe, and we can get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kobe, and I'm a junior studying professional writing and political science with minors in communication, creative writing, and human rights, with certificates in entrepreneurship and public policy. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves. So why don't you start, Cheyenne?
I'm Cheyenne, and I'm from Carmel, Indiana, and I'm a senior studying linguistics, French, and psychology with a minor in global studies.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a sophomore. I'm studying mass communications with a minor in theater and Spanish.
My name's Anna. I'm a sophomore studying industrial design. I'm from Danville, Indiana.
And I'm Hollis. I'm a junior from Lafayette, Indiana, and I'm studying in English.
All right, well, we're waiting for questions to come in. We're going to start with one very general question. How or why did you choose Purdue? We can just go down the line.
Oh, okay, so mine is kind of a boring reason, but so when I first came onto campus, I really liked that everybody was so organized. Like when I first went on my first tour, everybody knew where to tell me to go, and I would go talk to Division of Financial Aid, and they had all the answers that I needed, and everybody always knew who to tell me, who to email, so I knew that I would never have any administrative issues when I was here, and so far that has been true.
The reason I came to Purdue was a little bit different. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I got to college. I had like a major in mind, and I started off in athletic training, but I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to stay in. And I knew that Purdue offered a lot of different quality, different tracks that I could go on. And like I said, I'm in comm now, and I figured that out after about a year of kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And that's honestly like the biggest reason I came here, is because I knew that they would have a lot of options and a lot of quality options.
I came to Purdue not intending to come here at all. My high school was really small, so I was intimidated by the Big Ten school and 40,000 students, but I eventually found the industrial design program, and it's pretty unique. Not a lot of schools have it, and I just fell in love with the design process and what they do here. So my main factor coming here was the major, but I've absolutely loved like the people and just the Midwest hospitality, people call it. So it's ended up being really good community feel, and it's not at all big and scary like I thought it was going to be. It's actually really small.
When I was figuring out which college I wanted to go to, I wasn't sure at all what major I wanted to pick, but I did grow up in the greater Lafayette area, and I'd spent a lot of time on campus. And even though I didn't know what I wanted to do, I knew that Purdue's community would be very inclusive and very enjoyable for me. And I just knew that it was the campus that I was meant to be on.
Alrighty, since one of our first questions comes about being a liberal arts student at a large STEM institution. How have you guys combated that? How do you feel being a liberal arts student at a university that's so science and engineering based?
I can go ahead. I think like a big thing that they emphasize at Purdue is becoming like a well-rounded student. And had I gone to a school that wasn't a STEM school or anything like that, I would have never had to take any of the math courses or science courses that I was required to take, just like as in the core curriculum. I think that's like really, really good for me, even though I didn't really enjoy a lot of it. It'll be really applicable to the outside world when I get out, and that's something that will put me apart from other people that got the same like general education as me, but I had to take those other ones, and that will set me apart from other people in the future.
Our president, Mitch Daniels, actually really pushes for the liberal arts education, and he put it this way in his, I think it's a graduation speech, that you can have the math and the science skills, but until you learn how to write it down and share it with others, then it doesn't go anywhere. So I thought that was a really cool way of putting it, just that you can have those math and science skills, but until you learn the communication, writing, speaking, then you can't do well in society until you learn those skills as well. So just having a well-rounded education really helps. My major also includes a lot of math and science analytical skills, and just having the liberal arts core that goes along with it teaches me how to better relate to people and public speak and all those skills that you need as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of getting your liberal arts education is being able to communicate and mesh with people who have really different perspectives than you. So I think being surrounded by a bunch of students who maybe have very different professional goals or who are used to being taught in a different way, I think that really just helps me more when it comes to interacting with people who have like different interests and different perspectives than myself.
Let's talk about living on campus, because that's something that is really difficult for new students to really get a grasp of. Why don't everyone share their experience of what they did their first year living on campus and what that was like?
Okay, so my first year, I lived in Shreve Hall, and it was the honors residence hall at that time, but right now they have a new honors residence hall. So if you do end up doing honors, you'll live there unless you request not to. But my experience was really good. I had a random roommate, and I had met her on Facebook a little bit beforehand, but the first time we actually met was when we moved in. And we never ended up becoming best friends, but we were always fine with each other, and we were always able to communicate. And if there was ever any issue, the person I would always go to was my resident assistant, and they were another student who was not a first year, who'd already lived in the residence halls for a certain number of years. And they help you kind of figure out any types of problems you might have. They help you make an agreement in the beginning, and they help make sure that your entire year, it runs smoothly and you're able to make friends and really integrate yourself into campus.
I also lived in Shreve Hall, but that was just last year, so it wasn't the honors college. I also had a random roommate, and it was a really good experience. We became really good friends, and like we still talk. And my floor was really, really good. My resident assistant was really, really good. He really emphasized like building a community on the floor, and we played a lot of intramurals as a floor, and we had a lot of community events like just as the hall, and we would go out to eat on certain nights, and it was really, really cool the way that he could take all of us, just like strangers that had never met each other, and by the end of the year we were just a really big group of friends. I keep up with a lot of them still.
I also lived in the dorms my first year. I was in Harrison Hall, and I lived with a friend from high school, but it actually ended up being really good just meeting all the different people on our floor. So just because I knew a friend in my room, we still talked to our neighbors. We could pop in whenever we wanted. So I think living in the residence hall my first year was a great choice. You might hear horror stories about dorms, but it's actually a really close-knit community that you get with your floor. You're on campus, you hear about a lot of events, and you get to be close to all the activities, and I think it's a really great experience to just get settled into the area. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, so I mean, I also lived in dorms my first year. I lived in Owen Hall. I actually knew my roommate beforehand, but still I really liked how your RA takes a lot of time to try to get people from their floor getting to know each other. You can always go to lunch or go to dinner with your floor, or you could do things like I made a lot of friends just going to our co-rec, playing basketball, different sports like that. Intramurals are also great. But yeah, so I mean, everyone lived in the dorms, and I think your RA does a great job of like giving you a lot of information to meet other new students.
All right, we've got more questions coming in. So why doesn't everyone share their favorite Purdue experience? Something that really stands apart that you really have so far enjoyed about college life here at Purdue?
I think my favorite thing is that I get to meet people from all around the world. Purdue has a very large international student population, and I've gotten really involved in that. I was part of an Indian dance team at one point, and I've also been involved in helping new international students move in every year. So I've met people from Lithuania, India, China, anywhere you could imagine, and I really enjoy just being able to learn about other parts of the world and not necessarily have to go to them to still get a good international experience.
I think my favorite experience is last year Purdue's basketball team won the Big Ten, and our basketball team is like a really big deal on campus, and it's an incredible atmosphere to go and watch the games. The arena is packed every single game. The fans are loud and rowdy and crazy, and you go with a bunch of your friends, and it's so much fun. And the game that we won, we beat IU, which is our main rival, and it was just an absolutely electric atmosphere, and people were just going crazy. And we won, and confetti came out of the ceiling, and it was just absolutely insane. But it was such a fun time. Like, sports events are just absolutely so much fun.
For me, I really remember last year, I was just a freshman in the design program, and I was really intimidated to be a part of what these cool people were doing the year above me, but they were all super friendly. So I heard about a guest speaker that was coming to speak for the design program, Reed Schlegel. So he's pretty famous on social media, and an upperclassman actually invited me, personally came up to me and asked to come sit with her. And I got to hear him speak, and he gave us like a drawing lecture, and it really improved my sketching skills. And that was just a really cool experience for like professional development. And I got to talk to him and meet the upperclassmen as well. So just like being a part of that community is really fun.
I think one of my favorite experiences on campus was participating in Purdue's dance marathon as a freshman. And also I think that event is really representative of how you could do different student groups, and it's a way to meet other students, and also you're all working towards one goal. So if anyone's like unfamiliar with the dance marathon, the way Purdue sets it up is basically a bunch of students pull an all-nighter in our co-rec for 16 hours, and you have to stay standing up for that whole period. And we basically do that to raise money for Indy's Riley Hospital. And I mean, overall, that was just a really great experience for me. You get to meet a lot of children who are checked into Riley's Hospital or have had experiences there. And you also get to meet a lot of students who are working towards that same goal. So that was definitely one of my favorite initial experiences on campus.
I know one of my favorite experiences being a Purdue student was being able to study abroad in Greece last semester. I know some of you have studied abroad or are looking into programs. Can you share a little bit of that experience with us?
Okay, so I studied abroad in France twice, the first one I did was a spring break study abroad, so it was just 8 or 9 days. And we lived in a cooking school in the middle of France, and we went on field trips to medieval markets, and we went to a chocolate factory, and it was really interesting. And I liked food, and I got to eat a lot of good food. And then my second one was during the summer. I went to Paris for 6 weeks, and I took classes with a Purdue professor as well as a professor in Paris. And it was learning about art and architecture, and both of them were in the French language, but you don't necessarily have to do a study abroad in a different language. You can do study abroads in English.
I haven't studied abroad, but next year I'm planning on going to Copenhagen to do a furniture design semester-long program, so I'm looking forward to that.
Another question coming in were what kind of evening events are put on for students, either through any residence halls or any club activities. We've already talked about the dance marathon is a big event. What are some other things that you've been involved in or you know friends of that are involved in? So.
A big thing is there are a lot of sports games, like there's baseball, softball, football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, and those are all Purdue like sporting events, and all of them except for football and basketball you can get into for free with just your Purdue ID. In addition to that, there's also intramurals that you can sign up for, and there are an absolute insane amount of intramurals. There's a dodgeball intramural, there's an intertube water polo intramural, there's flag football and soccer and basketball, and all of those you can sign up with your friends, you can sign up with your floor. A lot of the residence halls, if you stay in them, will actually pay for intramurals, and you can just do them for free with a couple of your friends. And so you can sign up for all of those, and it's like 3 weeks long, and there's a tournament at the end. And so I remember like last year I had an intramural game almost every night, just depending on what game was in season. Like I had flag football one day and then the soccer the next day. So that keeps pretty busy.
They also have a lot of speakers coming in. So I know last year I went for free to see an environmentalist. This year I went to go see different alumni who've done different things on campus and who've also like gone out into the real world and had very good professional experiences, and they came back and shared their knowledge. We had Anita Hill come in, and they have all different kinds of speakers. Every month they have some come in. So.
I really like how there are a lot of different arts and culture related events. I think it was somewhere around mid-October where we had our Starry Nights Festival, which is done annually, and for that there's a lot of local art vendors. It all takes place on one of our local streets on campus, and there were also a lot of musicians, a couple different stages set up, and I was really surprised at just how many students attended that, because I noticed I could count on more than my two hands just the number of classmates that I saw in the crowd as I was attending that. And so that's just one example of the different art and culture related events that they have on campus.
All right, so we've kind of talked about campus life a little bit and what it feels like to be on Purdue. Let's talk about academics. What are some of your favorite classes you've taken here? Either in your major or maybe something in the CLA core or just electives?
This year I actually started, which I know you're also in Colby, the Certificate of Entrepreneurship program, and I had no business experience before. I thought it'd be something fun to try, and the introductory course for that class is a ton of fun. I have a super cool professor who, he only speaks in acronyms, so it's like a great new language I get to learn. He puts you in groups for the whole semester that you have to work on projects of different majors. So we all have a different background in what we're specialized in, and it's a great dynamic for group projects, and he mostly teaches you through the project. So it's not a lot of like heavy book reading, but you get to like learn by experience. So that's been really cool for me to learn those new skills.
I took a class with our president, Mitch Daniels, and it was actually at his house, and it was on World War I. So we were in groups and we were all a different country, and then we would kind of read about our country and understand what part they took in during that war, and also the effects overall for the whole world. And it was a very in-depth view of the war, and I learned a lot more than I thought I would, but I also learned a lot of public speaking skills that I didn't necessarily have when I first got to college.
I've really enjoyed all of the upper level English classes that I've taken. They have all been around give or take 30 students, so not too large. I feel like I've developed like a really strong and valuable personal relationship with all of my upper level English teachers. I've gone to the office hours for all of them, and since they're smaller classes, I get a lot of feedback on all the different assignments that I like. So all of my upper level courses for my major have been very rewarding for me.
My favorite class that I took was a television productions class. It was a class where 2 times a week we would meet in the television studio here on campus, and we just had different projects that we would do. We had to make like a commercial, we had to make a talk show, we had to make a game show, and we write the scripts, we would direct it, we would produce it, we took turns like being the actors in them, and like it was just so much fun, and the teacher was super knowledgeable and very smart. He was like an old movie director, and he was directing a documentary while he was teaching the class, and it was just a really, really cool experience. And it's actually one of the main reasons I chose my major to be mass communications.
All right, sticking with the theme of academics, we've got a bunch of different majors. We've got art and design, communications, English, and language and linguistics and stuff. How do you feel you manage your course load and the workload that comes with that? Is it different based on the different things you study? What is your time management style like?
I guess for me, when I first started out, I didn't necessarily have as much work as I have now. And I've also started getting into research more. And I think the type of research that you do depends a lot based on what your degree is. So like mine would look a lot different from yours. But when I first started out, I think I was able to juggle a lot of different clubs as well as classes very easily, but now I've kind of toned down my clubs more and spent more time on my coursework, but I can still be involved in a few things, but more in-depth involved. So like all the clubs that I'm in now, I have leadership positions, and I do take a lot of initiative and time in those clubs, and it's not necessarily just learning about a bunch of different things at once. It's more honing in on exactly what I want to do.
I think it's very different depending on the major that you're in. See, for me personally, like since a heavy component of mine is television, I'll be in the studio a lot, or I'll be writing a lot. So that's a lot of lab time. Whereas with English, like you might be outside the lab, but you'll be doing like, or papers, that sort, or even art and design. You're taking a lot of time drawing and redrawing. So it just depends. Everything is a different course load. Honestly, it probably just depends on where you're at when you're doing it. But personally, last year, kind of similarly, I had a lot of time to test out a lot of different clubs that I wanted to try, just kind of do a bunch of different experiences that I wanted to. And as I've progressed, the course load gets a little bit heavier, but it also gets more enjoyable. Because the further you go in, the more concentrated your major becomes. So the first year you start off just with like the university core requirements. So you take like the basic level university classes, but as it goes on, you take more concentrated classes, and it becomes really, really enjoyable for you, and you want to be there and you want to learn.
For me, art and design is known for being workload heavy. They tell you that when you come in, you're gonna spend your nights in the studio, and you just become comfortable with that. But it's such a great atmosphere there that the people love what they do, me included, so it doesn't seem like work. I know for this year, I'm a sophomore, and we have the portfolio review at the end of the year, which if you don't know, you have to collect all your projects from freshman and sophomore year and present them to a couple of professors. There's an interview, and they choose the top 17, I believe it's for every design major, to continue in the program. as you go into your junior year. So this year, that's what I'm focused on a lot. That's going to take a lot of extra time, but all 4 years that you go throughout the program, you're going to be spending quite a bit of hours drawing, sketching, computer modeling, but the more you do it, the more you love it. So I wouldn't be intimidated by that.
Yeah, I feel like with a lot of the courses on campus, it's really all about, getting or taking out what you're putting in. So a lot of the courses demand a lot, but that's really useful for figuring out what's most important for you, because I really don't have the same leisure time that I had a couple years ago, but I also am a lot better at managing my time. So I figure out how to set up my schedule so I have enough time to do homework, to meet up with whatever student groups that I'm a part of, find the time to go to the co-rec. I think your courses really push you to make the most of your time and figure out, what it is that you want to spend your time doing.
All right, another question we have coming in is about Greek life. So if anyone has any experiences or maybe has friends that have had those experiences on Greek life, can share those.
I mean, is it a question in particular, or is it just?
Just in general about Greek life, like what it's like, what the different types of fraternities and sororities you have on campus.
Well, I did join a fraternity my freshman year. I really liked it a lot. It's been great for me when I was a freshman, it was really great for become a little bit more outgoing and making new friends, because at first, I grew up in Lafayette and I was rooming with someone that I already knew, so there wasn't a big push for me to get out there and make new friends. But Greek life is something that introduced me to a lot of new friends. It's also what introduced me to participating in Purdue's dance marathon that I mentioned earlier. So, it definitely has a strong presence on campus. I have friends in Greek life and outside of Greek life. So joining it is really just a matter of if that's what interests you.
Yeah, Greek life has a pretty significant impact on campus. Purdue actually has like the third largest Greek life in the United States. It's pretty easy to get introduced to it, to be a part of it. Within like the first month of classes starting in August, there's what's called Meet the Greeks, and there are tables set up, and you can go around and talk to representatives from every sorority or fraternity, and there they'll talk to you about what rush is like. Sorority rush is a little bit different from fraternity rush, and you can kind of talk to them, kind of figure out if you get along with them or if not. So it's really easy to become a part of, and it's just, there's no right or wrong way to it. Whether you join Greek life or not, it's just whether it's an atmosphere that you would thrive in or not.
And if you don't necessarily know if you would like joining Greek life, there's also different professional fraternities. And so with those, you could focus on business, for example, and you're with a group of like-minded people who are all very interested in business, and they'll help you with your resume. They'll help you get connections in the job world, and you'll still get that brotherhood or sisterhood that you wanted, but not necessarily in the same way as what you would traditionally think of as Greek life.
Going with the business experience, a lot of students in CLA are told that maybe it's difficult to get jobs or internships. I know we've had some varying internship experience in the room. Can we share some of those experiences?
Well, I know there's a new career center downstairs. One of my friends works there. So she loves having students come in and talk to her. There's open hours where you can go and ask questions. They can help you with your resume. You can see what opportunities are available. I have an interview coming up in a couple weeks that I got through that center. So I haven't had an internship yet, but they're willing to help you with those, any questions you have. So they're always willing to help.
Professors are a really big way that different internships show up. I didn't have an internship last summer. But this summer, an internship was introduced to me by actually the professor that I took the television productions class with. The comm department actually has the rights to televise one of the local baseball teams during the summer, and so I'll be doing that with that team, and I'll be going and I'll be filming the games and then broadcasting it. So I might be in the truck, like kind of figuring out like what cameras to use, or be in directing it, or I might be manning a camera, or I might be down on the sidelines with the announcers, helping give the play-by-play. And it will just depend on the game, and you kind of rotate through. Yeah, there's a very large variety of different internships that are offered and something like that.
I've actually had an internship here on campus for the last 2 years, and I actually work for the College of Engineering, and so I use my professional writing skills to help create their social media strategy and their web writing work, and it has also led to summer internships in state government, where I worked with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and helped create their media team, doing design work and also television production work. And so there are opportunities abundant for CLA students, and just being able to tap into those, either going to the Career Center or talking to your professors or advisors. Everyone here is really here to help you succeed. So moving on to more questions, how do you feel about diversity on campus? How do you see it represented? Yeah. And what kind of events do you see on campus that promote diversity in different ways? Yeah, share your experiences.
Like Hollis said, the Starry Night Festival is one I went to, where there are a lot of different cultures and arts and music. But there's also, it was a couple weeks before that, was the Multicultural Festival in Lafayette as well. That was a really cool event because they had different vendors as well, representing different cultures, and they had different activities for you, or like music playing, and they had all the different food available. I thought that was a really fun experience to get immersed and get familiar with that. But just walking on campus, you can always see advertisements for different clubs for different cultural organizations, and they have open invites so you can come experience whether they have like dances or concerts or food festivals or movies. There's always opportunities to be immersed in another culture and just find out what it's like from their point of view and everything.
And I know that the LGBTQ Center, they put on a lot of different movies and films, and they have speakers come in and talk to students, and they also pair up, I think, a lot with the Asian American Resource and Cultural Center, and they also put on a lot of different like cooking demonstrations, and they'll teach you about traditional dress in certain countries, and they also have communities just within the centers where if you want to be around people with the same interests, or if you just want to learn more about it, or if you identify with something like that, you can go in there, and they have people there whose job it is to help you get resources and to help you meet other people and to get you involved with other people on campus that have the same interests.
Another event that I really enjoyed, Halloween just passed a few weeks ago, and the Latino Cultural Center put on their Dia de los Muertos festivities, and so they have huge altars, and everyone, different clubs have altars that they light candles to, and there's really good food, and everyone's there just really enjoying it. And so those events are always open to the public. So whether you feel like you can identify with those groups, or you just, like Cheyenne said, just want to experience it and experience the culture, there are tons of events to get involved with. All right, our other question is, what are some things, have you ever struggled in coursework or struggled in a class, and how did you go about getting help?
I think there are endless opportunities on campus to find resources. You just have to be looking for them or be willing to get help. I started out as a dual major in engineering, and that's pretty difficult, but there's always SI sessions available. There's office hours. So even though it didn't end up being for me, I was able to keep up with that coursework because, SI is short for supplemental instruction. So it's open hours with a TA or sometimes the professor where you can answer questions or they give you more practice problems. So usually talking to the professor is the best way to get your questions answered. They'll direct you to somewhere where they can offer you more assistance. But also I was a part of the Industrial Design Society, and they pair you with an upperclassman mentor. And that's been a huge help for me because you can go ask them questions about your projects or how they prepared for review or anything you want to talk to them about. So as long as you're willing to look for a solution, you can find help for whatever you're struggling with.
Yeah, SI sessions are great for the courses that offer them. I know, like, specifically for myself, I really struggle with Spanish, but that's something that I have to take as part of my plan of study. And I know, for example, with the different foreign language departments, they'll offer little morning get-togethers where you can just have the opportunity to talk to someone in Spanish or whatever language it is that you're learning. And it's really set up to be like a stress-free type of event. So yeah, courses offer things like that, or also just like being able to visit your TA or your professor in office hours. It's all really just about taking advantage of the resources that you're presented with.
I think the coolest way that like Purdue offers to give you help is every professor has advertised office hours. It's on the syllabus. They tell you. I have one professor that tells us every class when their office hours are, and you can go right to their office and sit down in their office and be like, I don't get it. And they are more than happy to work with you and explain things over and over and over again in some cases, and just work with you until you get it. And you can go every week. You can go once, like it doesn't matter. Like they are just there. They're planning to be there anyway. Like that's a block of time that they have chunked out of their schedule just to sit in their office and wait for students to come and see them. So it's really cool just to have that like immediate access to them if you need them.
Alrighty, so Purdue University is in West Lafayette, and so what is it like to be in West Lafayette? What kind of activities are there in the town? We're also right across the bridge from Lafayette, Indiana. So what are some activities that you've done that have involved this community as a whole rather than just on campus?
I volunteered for Martin Luther King Jr. Day a few years ago, and they took us on buses out to Lafayette, and what we did was help at local elementary schools, like fixing the outside and pulling out all the non-native plants to Indiana and stuff, and making sure that they all went well. But I've also volunteered with the food pantry and with different homeless shelters nearby for a class I did. So I was in the sophomore leadership learning community, and part of that class was going out into the community and just learning about leadership and helping everybody in the community kind of get involved to make change. And so I think if you're interested in volunteer opportunities or if you're interested in getting involved in the community, both Purdue's campus and other communities within West Lafayette and Lafayette make it very easy and accessible to be able to do that.
I lived on campus my first year, like most of us. Not having a car, I thought it would be difficult to get around and try things, but we're really close to Lafayette, so I actually rode my bike Saturday mornings to the farmer's market. That was like my favorite thing to do. Bring home some apples on my bike on the way home. But now that I live off campus and have a car, I'm also able to drive to West Lafayette. It's still pretty close as well. And so like this year I participated in a safe trick or treat program. I got to hand out candy to kids, and that was a lot of fun. But there's also a great bus system available. So sometimes when I have to get groceries last year, I could take the bus to Meyer and pick up any supplies I needed, or could go to Lafayette and go shopping with friends. So that was my experience around here.
I went to a corn maze not too long ago. It's pretty seasonal. Yeah, you already covered the great points with that. I mean, you could use the bus system if you don't have a car, if you want to go to like the Tippecanoe Mall, or if you want to go to a local Walmart or a store like that. Wabash Landing is a little strip that has like a movie theater and a couple different restaurants, and that's easily within walking distance of campus. So there's definitely like a couple different opportunities to take advantage of the greater Lafayette area.
Lafayette is just across the river from Purdue, and you can walk there. It's very accessible and close. There are a lot of little storefronts down there. It's a pretty artisan town. Like there are a lot of different things you can do. There are arcades. There's a lot of little like restaurants. There are a lot of coffee shops. There are a lot of thrift stores. There's this one place that you can go and it just has like hundreds of board games, and you just and there's like a restaurant that's part of it, so you just get food and you just play board games for as long as you want. And it's a really artistic part of town, and there are different places where there's another place that's like ceramics, that you can make your own ceramics, so you could like throw pottery and stuff like that, or you can, they already have stuff made, you can just paint them and then like take them home, and there's a lot of artistic stuff to do in downtown Lafayette, which is really, really cool.
All right, steering it kind of back to academics. How engaged are your professors in your class and teaching, but also like we've already talked about office hours. What are some experiences you can share with that?
Okay, well for me, so I needed, because I'm in the honors college, and so with the honors college you have to do a scholarly project in order to graduate. So for my scholarly project, I decided I wanted to do kind of a traditional thesis type thing in linguistics. And I didn't really know any professors that did the type of research that I wanted to do, and I didn't even know that much about linguistics to even know how to go about doing research. So I asked my professor that I studied abroad with, and I talked with her because we already had a pretty close relationship, and in general she made class very easy, and it was always a small class, so we were able to kind of speak a lot, and I already knew a lot about her. And I just asked her, I said, I want to be able to do my scholarly project, this is what I'm interested in, and she completely said, I'll help you, like whatever you want to do, like I can make it happen. So ever since then, I've been working with her for over a year now, just making sure that my scholarly project actually gets finished. And she's actually helped me apply to graduate school. She's helped me write recommendation letters, and she's helped me through the entire process of just figuring out what I wanted to do in linguistics.
One of my probably most engaged professors that I've experienced was surprisingly in a class of like over 400. It was in one of like the basic like university core classes. It was a psych class, and it was in this big lecture hall, and it just blew me away like how many names he knew. Like granted he didn't know all 400 names, but like he knew a heavy majority. I went to his office hours a couple of times and he recognized me. Like he didn't necessarily know my name because there's a lot of people to remember. But he recognized me, he knew what class I was from, and he was just very engaged during class, you know. It made people very comfortable to ask questions in a big lecture hall, and he was very kind and open and just extemporaneous, which was really, really cool.
I know for industrial design classes, they're typically smaller. There's about 30 students in my major this year, but our class size is usually about 15, so it's kept really small and personal. So my professors all know me by name, and they're able to meet me after class if I have any questions. But one of my favorite professors is one I had for summer school. So I got to see her 4 hours a day, every day, and we got really close, and she tells me jokes in the hallway now, so I really like to know her that way.
Yeah, I've had great experiences with all of my English courses that have been taught with a professor. I've had a great relationship with the 4 different English professors that I've gotten to know these past 2 semesters. I would be like really confident in getting a nice letter of recommendation from any of them because I feel like they all know me really well. And it's basically like if you're a student and you make the effort to be engaged in the classroom, your professor is going to recognize that, and you're going to be able to feel like you can have a better one-on-one relationship with them.
I know for me, in the English department, specifically in the writing program, we have a lot of grad students that teach those courses. And I know my grad students sometimes seem even more engaged than the professors I've had because, again, they're teaching in smaller environments. And so I would say my grad students are just as engaged and willing to write you recommendation letters. I just had one, she was just a TA for a class that I had, but she wrote me a recommendation letter that got me an interview for an internship over the summer. So it's all this really exciting stuff. So another question we got is about the international student experience. And I know none of us in the room are international students, but is there anything that you can say about, maybe you have friends, or I know some of us have studied abroad a lot, so what are some things we can share there?
Okay, so there's actually the Center for Intercultural Learning, Mentorship, Assessment, and Research, and it's through international programs, and I'm actually one of their ambassadors. And so what it is it's a community set up for international students to help them get involved on campus. So we have events, and every international student that enrolls in campus, they get a newsletter, I think every single week in the email, and it just says all these different events they can go to. Therefore, things like if you're here and you don't have any family nearby, they can set you up with a local family for Thanksgiving or for Christmas break, and you can learn about American traditions and you can stay inside an American home. And I think Mitch Daniels' biggest thing with international students was he wanted to make sure that every single international student gets to have an experience with a domestic student and gets to kind of live an American type life a little bit when they're here and learn about the culture, and not necessarily just stay with, like, let's say you're from India, you don't just only have friends from India, you also have friends from the US, you have friends from other countries, and you got involved in campus not just with different international groups. And so they have a lot of different initiatives. They have Boiler Gold Rush International, so when you first come onto campus as a new international student, you can come a few days early and they can help you set up your bank account, help you get somewhere to live if you're not going to live in the residence halls. They can help you get your cell phone set up. Everything like that gets taken care of when you first come here, and they try to make sure that you feel accommodated and that you don't just feel really scared and nervous just getting here, because this might be the first time you're speaking English all the time. It might be the first time that you're even in this country, and they really want to make sure that you do end up feeling okay and that Purdue can feel like home while you're here.
Yeah, a lot of information about that. Alrighty, so we've got a lot of people, or all of us in the room at least have a major and a minor. What's it like to either declare those other majors or minors? What's it like to juggle the coursework? What drove you to have more than just the typical major for your bachelor's degree?
I know it was really just through talking with my academic advisor. They asked me if I wanted to use any of my credits to try and pursue a minor, and they were very useful and knowledgeable when it came to figuring out how all that worked. But then also you can really just look at your My Purdue plan, which is something that's set up online, and it will show you like how your degree is looking. And even if you're like midway through your college experience and you decide that you want to pursue a minor midway through, there's like a great what if system. So you can like place that minor that you're thinking about, and then it'll show you the courses that you've taken that already fulfill some of the requirements. And it also shows you what else you'll have to do for that. So I think your advisors and that My Purdue plan are both very useful for figuring out your major minor setup.
I know for dual majoring, which is when you go across colleges, it's a bit more of a process to add on a different major in a different school, but your advisors can walk you through any of that. In terms of adding a minor, it's pretty simple. You just ask your advisor, can I put this on? They'll see what courses you need and how you can fit it in if you have time. And that's pretty simple to add on. I personally added a minor because I wanted more well-rounded education. I thought adding business was really fun, or entrepreneurship. It's just a good skill to have, and they teach you a lot of different financial and selling techniques, and it just covered a wide range of skills that I didn't have in just design. So I thought it was a really interesting course to take on.
Yeah, my major actually left some room in my course load over like the 4-year process, and my advisor actually really encouraged me to get a minor because I wasn't originally going to, but because I thought it would be like too much work to have a minor and a major, but it's actually fairly straightforward. You just fill in the classes that you have empty, and you just fill them in with minor classes instead of filling them with just annual class, and then you add that to, and then you get like an additional merit. I don't know, whatever it's called. But I realized that even in the things that I wanted to do, some of them are a little bit more abstract. Like a theater major, like that's just because I enjoy theater and that's something that I wanted to do, and it pertains to my major a little bit, but it's just something that I really, really like, and decided that I wanted to have some further education in it.
And a lot of times, especially with like minors and sometimes even having another major, there are classes that cross over and count for both. So I know I have a minor in human rights, but a lot of that minor is based out of political science classes. So as a political science major, I had already done half of it. And so it was only a few more classes to add the extra classification. So we've talked about all the majors and minors we have, and I know we've also talked about having to switch in and out of majors. What is that experience like when you have decided you want to switch into something else?
Okay, so I can talk about switching from one college to another. So I'm in the College of Liberal Arts, but I'm also in the College of Health and Human Sciences. So when I first added my major in the College of Health and Human Sciences, what I did was a change of degree objective. So I told my advisor, like, I'm thinking about adding a psychology major, and so she told me to set up an appointment online, and for each college it's different. I know for liberal arts, I think you watch a video, and for the one I went into, you go in for a little PowerPoint presentation and they talk about all the different pros and cons of the different degrees that they have in their college, and they just kind of teach you about what the degree is going to be like. And then after you go through that, you get to speak to an advisor in that new major or in that new college, and they kind of explain to you, this is our course plan of study, this is how it'll fit in, this is how you can still finish in 4 years, all that type of stuff, and they give you the information that you need to know, and then you can decide from there, yes, this is what I do want to switch into, or maybe I'll wait a semester and just take a few classes and see if this is really what I want to do before you make the jump.
I know I've switched my major a lot, just because I have a lot of interests, and I've switched mine mostly within CLA, and our website online has a lot of resources. It has all our plan of studies online, so I was able to look online to see all of like what it was going to take, and was able to plan it out, so I could go to my advisor with a clear plan, like this is what I want to do, here's why I want to switch, and I can do it because of this. So we have a specific question for Anna about projects and industrial design, and what your classes look like. Do you have classes that are geared towards certain, like car design or health product or technology? What?
Yeah, so starting out freshman year, before your portfolio review, they make sure you cover all the basic design skills, covering a wide range of products. And then as you move forward, they kind of let you choose what direction you think you want to head. So you can gear some of your projects more towards that. I know final projects in both of our drawing classes, you got to pick a topic. So last year I was really into like kitchen appliances, and I designed a vegetable spiralizer to make noodles. That's pretty fun. But then as you move forward into your junior and senior year, I know senior year you do a thesis, so the whole year is based around a project that you want to focus on, and that's anything, whatever you think you want to start designing. So my mentor designed a home birthing bath. So I know the process before was kind of unsanitary and not up to code, so she designed one that was more legal and easy to use. So that was really interesting to see how she got through the process of interviewing subjects and going through legal documents, and she was really thorough in that. But they also have a Hasbro class, so you can design toys. So there's a different range of products that you can focus on, but they try and teach you the skills in any major. So I also know a senior that graduated that works at Google now, so he's designing more of app interfaces. And then another friend is designing cars now. So whatever you want to get into, they'll teach you the skills for that, and you can move forward either in school or after you graduate towards what you want to do.
So it sounds like whatever you're interested in, you can find something.
They provide the skills for you and anything.
Awesome. All right, so now a question specific for Cheyenne is about Honors College and Honors College requirements, getting into the Honors College and then staying in the Honors College here at school.
So there are no requirements for getting into the Honors College. So they look at your application in a very holistic way. They look at your essays, they look at your entire high school experience when they decide who comes in. And even if you don't necessarily get in when you first come to Purdue, you can always reapply in your freshman year to get in for your sophomore year. And then while you're in the Honors College, you do take an introductory freshman course. You take one each semester. And so they're on different themes. So I know I took one on cities, and I learned all about like infrastructure in cities and how cities grew and different international cities and how they're different from cities in the US, for example. And then I took another one on terrorism. So I learned a lot about different aspects of terrorism and how the media portrays it. But you also take other classes that are, for example, honors contract classes, or you take classes that are honors sections of a regular class, and that might just include adding another paper or doing another presentation. And then in addition to that, you do your scholarly projects.
Can you talk a little bit about honors contract classes and what that's like?
So honors contract classes are, so for my majors, there's not necessarily a lot of honors classes just for a linguistics class. And so if I was very interested in one aspect of linguistics and I was taking a class in it that was just a normal level class, then I could go up to the professor and I could say, oh, I'm really interested in this subject matter. Is there any way that I can contract this class? And so what you do with that is you work with your professor and you talk to them and you say like, oh, I might be very interested in this specific language or applying a certain thing, and they'll have an extra project or they'll have an extra presentation or something beyond just the classwork that you work on with them. And then in the end, you can count that class for honors credit, even though it's not listed in the Purdue coursework thing as an honors class.
Awesome. Okay. So our next question is for people majoring in English. What kind of career outlook do you see? And you can answer it first, and then I'm also an English major. So.
Okay, well, for myself, right now, what I really want to do is go to graduate school. And right now, I feel like I want to do that directly after graduation. And so there are a lot of resources for that. I've been talking with my academic advisor about that. That's one of the main reasons why I visited all of my different English professors, just to talk to them about that process. So they're all very helpful about, as far as getting looking at different careers or internship opportunities. You can go to the Liberal Arts Career Center if you're trying to see any different internships you can get. For myself, I'm more interested in trying to get research experience. So that's actually what I've been talking to one of my professors and again my academic advisor about. So honestly, like if you're interested in getting a research opportunity, you really just have to do a little bit of research, because different professors are always looking for assistance for their research. And with Purdue or with Discovery Park, you can look at a bunch of different summer research opportunities. So for me, as far as like finding research opportunities to help for my career outlook, there's a lot of different directions you can go for that.
And for me, my English degree is technically in professional writing, and it's a lot different than the other English degrees, where we don't necessarily read a lot of books, but we do a lot of writing and we're very research focused. And so my career outlook could be anything from communications to television production to web writing and design. And our degree is really focused on understanding our audience and understanding our the user experience. So people go on to be game developers and work at museums as communication specialists. And so for English majors, it's really broad as to what we're able to do. Another question. Got a question over there. So Purdue is a large Big Ten university in the Midwest. You've got 40,000 students plus. How do you make this large school feel smaller, and how do you form your tight-knit communities?
I think a really big benefit of Purdue is that they have a lot of clubs. Literally anything that you're interested in. There are over like 1,100 clubs on campus, and there are academic clubs, there are different sports clubs, there are literally anything like artistic clubs, stuff like that. And probably the biggest way that I've like different friends that I've made have been through clubs. Like I was part of a dance club on campus, and a lot of my good friends came from that. I was part of campus outreach, and just through like interacting with the people there that you see 2 or 3 times a week, you begin to form those friendships, and then your community really shrinks because it's not you versus the world anymore. It's you and your 5 best friends going and taking on the world together, which is really, really cool.
Okay. How do you feel about the political climate on campus? Obviously, you went through a turbulent election last year. What are some of your personal experiences that you felt being, one, a CLA student, being in the Midwest, being in a college town, being you?
For me, I mean, when it comes to politics, there's I don't know, always the chance for people to get a little strong with their emotions, but I've never felt, I don't know, like threatened or uncomfortable, anything like that. Definitely had like a lot of political conversations on campus. You get exposed to a lot of different political views, but I think campus administrators try to do a good job of maintaining a safe and open environment for students with different political backgrounds.
And I think one really great thing about Purdue is that when they bring in different speakers or when they bring in different people, they bring people that aren't necessarily just left or right. They bring in people from very different viewpoints, and they have panels with people with all different types of viewpoints. And Purdue makes sure that when you're here, you learn about a lot of different perspectives and you can share your own perspective. And no matter what happens, everybody is part of the Purdue community, and everybody wants to make sure that everyone else succeeds, regardless of things like if you think a certain way about a different political candidate or if you have a very specific viewpoint on one issue. There's always the openness to have a conversation.
Yeah, I know coming in, I was part of Boiler Gold Rush, which is the freshman first week you're here on campus. They have all the freshmen participate in different events and try different activities and walk around campus. But one of the things they really push is a program called Free Zone, and they give skits and lectures on the open environment here and how everyone's willing to have an opinion and you can discuss them, and it doesn't have to go beyond that. So Purdue has a really accepting environment. So anywhere you go, people will hear you out, but I haven't seen any conflict come from that. So it's cool how we can just coexist in this way.
I know as a political science major, obviously, I'm talking about politics every day because I take classes in it. But in political science classes, we learn how to talk about it in maybe a little bit more of an education, as a little bit more like educated way. Not to say that people talk about politics in an uneducated way, and so those classes, I never feel like it's 100% one-sided or another. And so we learn how to look at other aspects of political beliefs that maybe we wouldn't believe in ourselves, but how they really have applied to our country, and really just political science classes, I think, are the best classes on campus. Not to sound biased, but I think they're a great way to learn like human nature and how people interact. So what are some places that are the best places to study on campus? Obviously, we've talked about having large course loads and we have very different classes. Where are some places you guys gravitate towards?
I really like studying at any of the coffee shops on campus. They're not always necessarily quiet, but I really like coffee, and I just plug in my earbuds and I'm really productive in those locations. But there's also quite a few different libraries on campus. That makes it very easy if you want to just find a little spot in between your classes or just whenever you're on campus. There's a lot of different locations to study.
Yeah, there are actually 8 different libraries on campus, and they're like spread out throughout campus. So no matter where you are during the day, if you have like an hour gap that you just need to really go and focus, there's usually one like fairly close. In addition to that, one of our biggest libraries, it has 4 different stories, and the higher you go, the quieter it gets. So the first floor is just kind of like general chit chat, and then second floor is whispers only. Third floor is like no talking, and then the fourth floor is literally like dead quiet, and they like play static over the speakers, so it's just like white noise. It's a little bit creepy, but yeah, there are a lot of different libraries to go to, which is really, really cool. A lot of them have different feels to them, so you can figure out which one you like better. There are also part of the honors colleges. There's a really big study room, and it's just a bunch of tables, and it's pretty quiet in there, and you can just go and study, and there are a bunch of other people studying in there, just getting work done. So,
sometime during my freshman year, I found out that every building has a little study area in it with little tables. So I made it my college goal to go in each building, and I studied in a different one, I don't know, by the week. So that's kind of like a daily mission to go find a new study space. And one of my favorites is there's a porch on the Union that not many people know about. So if you find the secret door, you can go out and eat lunch on the porch.
And there's also University Resident Success Centers, and I think there's 2 of them. And when you go in there, there's different study spaces where you can go into your own separate room, and there's a big whiteboard, and you can have group meetings. But there's also just big areas where you can study alone or with groups, and they're inside the residence hall, so you don't necessarily have to travel all the way to your academic buildings, and you can still have a quiet study space.
And each res hall also at least has a lobby lounge that you can study in. Some even have lounges on every floor that you can find a spot to study. So there's an abundance of places to study on campus. Another question, what are some of your favorite Purdue history things that you like to do, that everyone does every year? It's like a tradition.
I go to the Christmas show every year. So there's this big event, and they have all the different musical organizations on campus come in, and they have bells playing, and they have different choirs singing, and they have a whole different story on it. And it's really beautiful. And if you usher it, then you can actually stay for free, and you don't have to pay for your ticket to the show.
I really like during Boiler Gold Rush week in the freshman orientation. Once you get to Purdue, you'll find out that everyone has to take part in a fountain run. Sounds intimidating if you're not physically active, but it's okay. There's about 5 different fountains on campus now, so you run through each one of them. You get a little wet along the way. So with your BGR group, you run in a pack and hit each fountain. You have to swim through some of them and run through. So that's a tradition that you have to do every year from then on. So that's a lot of fun.
I kind of already mentioned this earlier, but I really like the IU Purdue basketball game, just because everyone shows up. The night before, people are camped out outside the arena, and then they have like entertainment things going on because there are so many people like camped out, and it's so electric and crazy, and everybody is just going insane, and it's just a blast. Like there's no feeling like it. Last year, we broke the university arena like sound record. During the game, it was so crazy to be there. I can't get over it.
I think I do. One thing that I really like about our football weekends is simply that when you're on campus, you get really used to only being around other college students for the most part. But on our football weekends, that tends to bring out a lot of alumni and a lot of families just from the Lafayette area in general. So that just changes up the atmosphere a little bit. It's cool to see everyone gathered just for like one particular thing.
Awesome. So another question about like being on campus. Everyone's worried about what campus food is like. We can talk a little bit about that. We've got dining halls, but we've also got, the coffee shops off campus, and we've got the little shops in the Union.
Oh, it's great. The dining halls, you can get a meal plan if you're living in the residence halls, and it's absolutely incredible. There are 5 different food courts on campus. and you can go to any of them. They're also spread out around campus, so you can go to different ones. Each one has like its own little like specialty. Like one has like a pasta bar that's really good. Another one has wings every day. Another one has like a lot of meat, like that they just change up. Another one has really good pizza. And then they have like those specials, and then they change like everything else like every single day. And then they have like recurring favorites that they throw in there every once in a while, and it's wonderful.
And it's buffet style, so you swipe your card and you go in and you just eat however much you want and you stay for however long you want.
Too much.
So, and then if you don't want to go in for a buffet style type meal, then they have different on the go stations, so you can use one of your swipes and you can get, I think, 4 items. Like you could get a sandwich and you can get some fruit and you get oatmeal and something else, and then you can take them with you to class and you don't have to go inside and try to like stuff all the food in your mouth and then leave for class. And then they also have different food areas inside our Memorial Union. And in the basement, they have a pizza place, and they have a Mexican food place, and they have a crepe place, and they have all different types of food that you can use your dining dollars in.
They're also very good about working with dietary restrictions. So if you're gluten-free, paleo, any allergies, you can go talk to the cook there. There's one in each dining hall, and they can make sure that whatever special requirements you need, they'll make you a special meal if it's hot, or they'll tell you what's available.
I know on the weekends, I usually tend to go in our Chauncey area to get my food, and there's a lot of different local food spots, a lot of ethnic options. I mean, you have burgers. There's a maker on pizza place that opened like within the past year, pretty new. I know, yeah, like I said, I really like going to our Chauncey area on the weekends, and there's just so many different food spots over there.
More importantly, there's a Chipotle, which is my favorite. So you've had a busy week and you've had exams. What do you like to do in your free time to wind down, de-stress? What do you like to do, either on campus or just personal? How do you unwind and spend your free time?
I would always make my way to different public parks around the area. So my friends and I, or sometimes I ride my bike down there and just check out. There's plenty of different spots where you can go and get some quiet away from campus. Being from a small town, I kind of miss that. But there's plenty of locations around the area to just go out and be in nature a little bit, get some quiet.
Our co-rec, it has a hot tub, it has like a recreational pool, and it also has a sauna. And you can go running if you like running, and you can also play games. I think we have a soccer field, an indoor one and outdoor one. So if you like sports and that's your way to wind down, there's a lot of space there to be able to do that.
I do a lot of photography, and I didn't think there would be like a lot of opportunity here, but there's actually a couple parks that are actually really close that are really pretty. So I go there and I take pictures. There are different places that you can hike, or just kind of relax and just go with your friends and hang out, which is it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of different clubs that you can join to get you in touch with people with similar interests. So, like for me, I have a lot of like strong music related interests, and so I joined a student group that put me in contact with other students who like playing instruments and like making music. And so I don't know, one thing that I really like doing is trying to learn guitar, and I've met a lot of other friends within the past year who also play different instruments. So meeting up with them and just messing around with instruments is something that I like to do a lot.
I know one of my favorite things Hollis has talked about our Chauncey Square area. There's the Vaughn's bookshop, and much to my bank account's dismay, I like to go to that bookshop weekly. And because they have like staff pick books that are always new every week, and then yeah, it's a bookshop, so like it's still a lot of the same books, but I somehow managed to find a new section that I haven't found before. I was lost in like the fantasy detective section of it, and over the weekend, and it's just what I like to do because I like to read stuff. So another question is about working as a student. So do any of you have part-time jobs, and how do you juggle you being a college student and still working?
Matt and I both work at a coffee shop around here. We like hanging out at the coffee shop scene, so we decided to be a part of it. But I don't think it adds anything to our course load because a lot of the places here know you're a student and know that that's first priority. So they'll work with your schedule when you get into the beginning of the semester, and they'll make sure students are put in hours that work for their schedule. And if there's ever conflict, you can usually talk to your boss about heavy course loads. But as time goes on, you learn to manage your time and coursework in that way.
And I work in one of the residence halls, and I just work as like an office assistant, and I can actually do my homework while I'm at work. And so it's a way for me to get paid while also studying, and it's a really quiet place to study. So I actually like working, and I try to work more just so that I can have that space to do my homework.
I know for my internship, again, kind of what we've talked about, my boss obviously knows because I work for Purdue, so they obviously know that I'm a student and they know what that entails. So I have a set schedule, but if I have a really busy week, I can move my schedule around so that I can have more time to study or do homework. But if I have like a slow week, I can also push my hours up and really get a lot of work done for them to make sure I'm still hitting their requirements and such. So another question, how do you get around campus? Do you mostly walk? How many of you use other forms of transportation? And if anyone wants to talk about the bus system, I know we mentioned it a little bit, but what's an experience with that?
Well, this school year and last school year, I was able to get my car on campus, but I want to say it was my first semester freshman year when snow started falling. That really forced me to get acquainted with our bus system, and there are a lot of different routes, which is very useful because you can pretty much go wherever you want on campus, but can also appear a little overwhelming at first. But there are a couple of different apps that you can use with your phone, and they're all linked with like the Lafayette bus system. You can see what routes are going to take you where. You can see it even like shows you like if a bus is planning on like hitting this stop in like 5 minutes or anything like that. So it's all like very specific and detailed, and the bus system is it's really easy to use and really useful.
So like I said, I have my car on campus this year, and so you have to get a parking pass according to your seniority. There's A, B, and C. So as a student, you just have a C pass, which means that the parking lots are a little bit farther off. But I would say it doesn't take more than 15 minutes to get from one side of campus to the other walking. And if it's a rainy day out, I just take the loop that goes right around campus and get there in about 5 minutes. So it's pretty easy navigating with a car as well.
I'm not cool enough to have a car on campus. So I have a longboard that I use, and it's not very hard to navigate through Purdue. Like it's pretty straightforward. It's actually a fairly close-knit campus physically. Like the buildings aren't very far apart. A lot of the classes that you have will be pretty concentrated, and even if you do walk, there, like I said, once you get to academic campus and you're there for classes, like all the buildings are pretty close together, so you're not outside for very long. If it's in the winter and it's cold, but in the summer it's great. I actually prefer walking to class just because it gives me some like chill time. I can just listen to music or a podcast or whatever I'm feeling for that day, and usually you'll see friends that are walking by and you can stop and talk to them. And I wouldn't say that walking is a big deal on campus.
And we also have underground tunnels that connect a few buildings. They're not like scary looking tunnels, they're just like hallways underground. But if you, for example, it's really cold out and you have to get from like one building to another, you could possibly go below 3 different buildings and be able to minimize your walking time in the outdoors. So it's nice.
Did that earlier today because it was a little remaining. All right, we're in the last 10 minutes, so if you have any last minute questions, be sure to send them in to us. I had a question about living in the dorms and how long you can do that, if you can do it all 4 years, and then what the pairing system is like. So if you can choose your roommate, what it's like to have a random roommate. I know we've already touched on dorms a little bit, but if anyone has any more information, I want to say it again.
Okay, so you can live all 4 years in the residence halls. And for your first year, unless you're living in the honors college or in another different like academic community, then I think you rank it based on the amenity that you prefer. So if you prefer to live closer to campus, then you would put that as your number one. Or if you prefer air conditioning, you could put that as your number one. And then from there, it's, I think, a complete like lottery system. You just get what you get. It doesn't matter when you turned it in, so long as it was before the deadline, and there's no like preferential treatment for anybody specifically. And then from that list, if you say you want a random roommate, then what you do is you take a survey and it asks you, I like to go to sleep before this time, or I feel that I'm messy, I like sharing my clothes, all this type of stuff. And then they match you with someone similar to you. Or if you have a roommate that you prefer, then you both just put each other on the application and then you will get assigned to each other.
And living in the residence halls your first year is also optional. So if you don't think that'll be a good fit for you, there's an option to live off campus as well.
Alrighty, what are some off-campus places that you like to go? So we've already talked about Great House because you two work there. What are some what are some other places? And I talked about Bonds, the bookshop. What are other places that you love about West Lafayette or Lafayette? I know, Matt, you already talked about the board game place in Lafayette, and that's one of my favorite places because it's like a restaurant and you can go in there. And they just have, it's like a library, but just for board games. And so you can go in with friends and it's really funny. It's really fun to do on like late night weekends, or like if it's like really snowy or bad weather outside, because you can sit inside and play board games and like drink soda. It's fun.
There's also a really big entrepreneurship community, and we have different buildings in both Lafayette and West Lafayette where if you want to get involved in entrepreneurship, you can get an office there, or you can join different competitions where if you win and you show them like a different plan that you have, they could give you money and funding, and they could give you a lawyer to actually help you implement this business into the real world. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, it's a very nice city to live in.
There's also a Wolf Park in Lafayette, which is pretty random, but it's a great place to go. All throughout the year, and during Halloween they do special kids events. So that was a pretty fun spot that I've been to.
You did kids events?
At the Wolf Park.
Oh, okay.
There were kids there.
One of my favorite places to go, or well, parts of living in a college town, is that there are places that are open ridiculously late into the night. So there's one university-sponsored place called Harrison's Grove, and it's open till like 3 in the morning. So you're having like a late night study thing. You can just like text one of your friends and be like, "Hey, do you want to go get shakes really fast?" And be like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's be stupid." But also in Lafayette, there's a place called Pete's Diner that's open 24/7. It's one of my favorite places to go because they have really good potatoes, and sometimes it's what you need at 4 in the morning. So it's a solid, yeah, or anytime. So it's great. There are a lot of things that are open when they shouldn't be open, but it's great. Ice cream places as well.
Yeah, downtown Lafayette can be a really nice place to explore. I mean, there's a lot. It's one of those downtown areas where there's just a lot of really small little stores just sort of tucked away. So you can really just sort of explore some nice little like antique shops. And there's also a local art museum in the downtown area too. So there are quite a number of nice little spots to look at downtown too.
Alrighty, so for our last question or discussion topic, what is either one piece of advice you would give to any incoming freshmen, or something you would have wished you would have known before coming to Purdue?
I would say don't be afraid of your professors and always go up to them because they're there to help you, and they're there to help you find other experiences to make your college career more than you necessarily would have if you just kind of did it by yourself. So like they can help you get involved in research, they can help you get involved in different clubs on campus, they can help you in your professional career, they can help you with internships. Just never be afraid to befriend your professors, ask them about their lives, and have them become like your mentor.
I would say just don't be afraid to be adventurous, and don't let like something that like other people say like prevent you from doing that. Like do what you love and like what you want to do. Like coming from me, it's coming in, I didn't know that my major even existed. Like I'm gonna go work in TV, and I knew that like some people did that, but like I wasn't sure. I didn't know that was like a major option. And so like coming here, I like figured that out. And I was like, awesome, like I love this and this is something that I'm really passionate about and like I'm just gonna do it. And I would say like don't be afraid of pursuing something that you love because of like what the world tells you about it. So just be adventurous in who you are.
Mine is kind of similar to Matt's. I would say just don't be afraid to try something new, like maybe something you're not comfortable with. When I was a freshman, I was kind of intimidated by this place. But my friend encouraged me to try a lot of different clubs and call out meetings. There's a lot of free food at those events. Try a new hobby you've never been a part of, or the club that you don't think you'd be interested in, and you might be surprised that you'll love it, be part of it.
Looking back at myself, freshman year and some of my friends, just one thing that I would say is you should definitely take the time to try and be outgoing, join or figure out what student groups would work for you. I'm trying to find time to go to the co-rec or play intramurals, but also beyond all of that still really stress keeping your academics first, because all of those activities are a lot more fun when you aren't having to worry about the grades.
I would say my piece of advice would just be to maintain the balance you have as like hanging out with your friends or spending time alone. I know my freshman year was, as a college student, you're very eager to make new friends, so I found myself spending a lot of time with friends and not enough time alone, either focusing on academics or just being alone. I find being alone to be very nice. And it's something that I think people should do more often, is just spend time alone. So now I have found, as this being my third year here, I've found an even balance between spending time alone doing homework or just reading a book and at a coffee shop or something, versus spending game nights with my friends. Thank you to everyone that tuned in this evening. Be sure to be on the lookout for future emails and follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for information on more broadcasts. So thanks, guys.